everybody, and welcome to another episode of Reluctant Hero podcast. This episode is going to be a little bit different because, unlike in previous episodes where I usually interview just one guest, in this episode there's going to be a collaboration between four people and interaction and discussion between four people who are very much dedicated to helping others, working with them on different aspects, including the self-growth journey, healing, and all aspects of making yourself better. So this discussion is very special in that sense that it provided us a way to really share the concepts that we love so much and also offer a little bit of value for the listeners so that they could get a little bit further ahead in their own hero's journey. So hope you like this. Enjoy this podcast and let me know if there is anything else that you like about this format or if there is anything that specifically resonated with you and you would like to hear more of it. So here you go. Please enjoy the episode. All right, so we'll just go and kind of like flow with this and see where it takes us because there's so many ideas, but we wanted to originally speak about the archetypes and the nature of how they interrelate and how they affect our daily lives and how they affect all our things. And maybe we could add additional things that show up. So, but I think at the beginning we could introduce ourselves. So let me just start. So this is essentially a conversation between four of us, and we have been passionate about coaching and passionate about helping people, and we decided to come together and discuss this subject and see if it resonates with anybody out there, and maybe it brings some value to some people out there. From four minds gathered together, discuss this interesting subject, and we'll go from there and see what evolves from it. So why don't we introduce ourselves? Let's, Roshni, let's start with you and go around and give a brief introduction of who we are.
Sure. I'm Roshni Sharma Fleming. I'm the CEO and founder of Stillfire Healing Inc. here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, in the Northern Hemisphere here. And we are serving women who, like all of us, but specifically in my business, we serve women who are struggling to find and reclaim their divine feminine energy. And I help support that. I help them to reclaim it through energy practices. I help them to reclaim it through nutrition, through metaphysical practices, spiritual practices. And I'm a light worker, a soul's guide, a Reiki master, EFT user as well, personally and professionally. So I help women to break into that and then help them to live a more fully embodied life.
That's awesome. Mickey, what about you?
Hi, I'm Mickey Cohen. I'm a transformative life and leadership coach, and I coach people. And I I coach the person, not the problem, because it's clear to me, and I think it's clear to all of us that we have all we need. And so a lot, what I help people do is weed their, kind of move their way through their thinking and remove a lot of the veils and the beliefs that were maybe true at one point and not true now, and just really having them come from their heart, get out of their head and come into their heart. And when they work from there, life looks different and they remember who they are. And then it becomes a lot easier.
That makes sense. Awesome. Zach.
I'm Zach Gandera. I'm the owner of Breakbox Coaching and Creative. I'm a healing and performance coach. I help my clients become aware of traumas and subconscious blocks that are holding them back and equip them to understand how to listen to their own egos, their own shadow, and their own body, so that they are empowered to resolve the trauma and live higher performing lives through their authentic self in their life and workplace and relationships and everything in between.
Beautiful. And my name is Pauline Dugald. I am a peak performance and creativity coach. Essentially, what I do is that I enhance performance, cognitive performance for my clients. I have always been about peak performance, and I have always been about intellectual growth. And this is what I combined. Plus my added years of artistic and design experience. I have created a system where I provide this support for those who want to be more focused, more present, and more connected to themselves, their authentic expression, and their purpose. And essentially what I do is that I help them connect the dots as to why they do the things that they do, so that they can shift that, change that, and be more focused and more determined and more driven in pursuit of their goals. So that is me, and all of us are coaches, and we are very passionate about coaching. So maybe we can begin with what is coaching really means to us and why are we so passionate about it? Whoever wants to go.
I'll start, I guess. It's on the tip of my tongue. It came really through my own experience. I've had many experiences of overcoming wonderful blessings in life. Religious and corporate PTSD, chronic illness, kidney failure, kidney transplant, divorce, over 17 surgeries, big transitions in life, big transitions in life. And when I first got diagnosed with PTSD, it was in my own process and therapeutic journey of trying to heal what was coming out of me as anger and other things that I had never had before. And after a 4 or 5 year journey in the therapy realm, I came away with a really great awareness of what the roots of these problems were, but not a good awareness on how to heal them or how to integrate what needed to be integrated in my own psyche via my ego, my shadow, and my body. And so I went on a journey of figuring that out. I went everywhere. I went holistic, I went religious, I went psychological, I went somatic, I went breath work, I went shamanic journeys. I've gone everywhere and anywhere to kind of piece together a plan of healing, because so many of us go through these deep therapeutic journeys and we just end up in a cycle of healing, which is great. Like there's definitely healing that we need throughout of our lives, but if we end up in a cycle of healing, we're actually not experiencing life and we're not thriving. And so we've got to get to a point where things are healed, which in the psyche is integrating the ego. And I needed to find a path to do that, and I did that, and that's what coaching did for me. And general therapists oftentimes can't go there, whether ethically with their own therapy practice or legally with licensing or different things. As a coach, I don't give advice. I'm a guide, right? So, but it's very, very difficult sometimes for a therapy avenue to be able to give people the tools that they need and help them find the tools that they need that bespoke work for them, right? One size doesn't fit all, and everybody needs something different. And a coach can give energy, a coach can give encouragement, a coach can give tools, a coach can be a guide. And that's one of the reasons why I do it.
Wow,
That's
that's so
beautiful.
powerful. I'll jump in here. For me, I don't always subscribe to the word coach. I am, again, coming from experiences of loss, of illness, recent, and also in my life, up and down. And I look at it like a roller coaster for me. I was always told that I was too sensitive. I was too feeling. I have to be stronger. And, you know, when you are learning how to be in the world and there is no one to validate how you are, and you don't know how to integrate what you are and what your gifts are and why you're here, this is why my journey has been like that. I've had a decent childhood, great parents. I don't come from experiences that are traumatic. However, in that case, anything that was negative was amplified because of my empathic nature, and everything, a death, a leaf falling from a tree, a pet dying, a child crying, I felt those 100 times more than I thought that the average person did. Now, my experiences had also brought me to a point of illness where I had to choose life or death, and I chose life. And I got very sick. And during that time, again, as Mickey so beautifully started us off with breaking open and choosing that time to say to myself, you know what? It's not my time. I have the rest of my life to lead. So I started scaffolding a holistic wellness journey alongside, in tandem with my traditional methods. And it was really, really, really eye-opening. And at that time, I knew that I was a healer, and I knew that my gifts were far more than that I was to be shown. So when I say I don't subscribe to a coach, because I think coaches do much more than the label subscribes to, that people understand. Coaches are very profound people, and we don't fix people. We hold space for people so that they can look at the deeper parts of ourselves. I think it kind of limits us when we say that we're just a life coach or just a transformational coach or creative coach. All of us go through what we need to go through to say and to do what we need to do by serving others. And these are the gifts that we have been given. And our job as I say souls guides is to hold the hand, especially if you're on a roller coaster, someone to kind of walk beside you and to say, you know what? It's all good. And this is how we're going to do it together. And that's why I love what I do. And even the simplest reactions have been a big sigh at the end of change maker sessions. I deal with women, of course, and I call them change makers. Big sighs at the end, and I was like, and a big smile. That's enough for me. That's enough.
That's great.
So that's why I do what I do.
Sometimes it seems that it's that calling of ours chooses us. We don't actually choose it. It grabs our attention and refuses to let go. And we have no other choice but to follow that calling.
Yes, I love that.
I would much rather be doing something else, I'm sure. Not really, but you understand what I mean, right? It'd be an easier journey to do something else.
Oh, it's
Yes,
not
it
easy at all. It's in service to something bigger than we are. It
Yeah.
is beyond us. It is something that grabs us and moves us to the next level of our development as we are pursuing that path. It's not even the career choice. It's more of a way of being, and then trying to figure out how to integrate it with everything else that we are.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Well, Mickey, why don't you tell us a little bit about what that represents for you? Because it seems like you have been doing it for a while.
Yeah, it's interesting as I listen to Zach and Roshni. First of all, I love everything resonated, and their experiences are somewhat different than mine. I didn't suffer. I shouldn't say that. I didn't have a hard life. I didn't have a lot of stuff. I did suffer though. Definitely self-created out of what was learned and inherited and all that. And definitely called to be a coach, but I love it. Now, when I first came across coaching in 1992, it was a way to fix myself. Once I discovered what it was a way, and why I wanted to be a coach was to fix myself and help people. And I'm not broke. I'm happy to say I'm not broken. And what's really become very apparent to me is that we are up to this. We are made for this. And, the pictures some of the metaphors usually, we're just like 1 degree, just one little, you got the radio on the old time radio on the station, it's static. You just turn it just a smidge, and then all of a sudden everything's clear. And we're that close. And so for me, while I love the term coach, guide, I think was a great descriptor too, but I see myself as a catalyst, someone that kind of sees a little flame and blows a little, go low, and let that spark and grow bigger. And I love the art and science of coaching. It's so interesting. And to me, the reason I'm drawn to it and love it is that it takes incredible courage for someone to sit down in front of me and take a look. And we all have, many of us are aware enough that we want to do something. But getting in front of somebody and being willing to have that courage to look in the mirror and open up is not an easy one. And so for me, it's a gift that when someone sits down with me, and it's a true act of creation and collaboration when we have that conversation. And I forget which one of you said it, may have been both, but I'm not going to tell them what to do. They know themselves and they know their lives better than I do, or their business, or whatever they've come to me for. All I am there is to do is to shine a flashlight, or hold up a mirror, or maybe poke them a little bit, and have them just take another look. You said X, let's take a look at X. What you tell me about that? Slow down and let's take a real look at that. And it's magic. When people do that, magic happens. And I mean, as even I'm speaking, I'm getting chills. I love this work. I'll do it till I die.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah, you're absolutely right with that. There's passion, at least for me. I have always been in that space of thinking about abstract ideas. And I love being with people, because also being an artist, that is kind of how my coaching evolved. I was an artist and a designer, and then I was living in an analytical mind for a long time. And eventually I merged those two. But when I am with a person, it's actually one of the things that I'm trying to hold back, because I want to say how much beauty I see in them, how much things that are awesome that are being presented to me. And being an artist, I always look from that creative perspective. And I want to tell them how much beautiful things they are missing, because they just need to shift their perspective. And I know I'm supposed to sit back and get them arrive at that conclusion, but the masterpieces that I see within my mind when I talk to people, it's almost hard to resist telling them about it, because how else would they be able to actually see that? So me being an artist, that's kind of how I've approached my coaching, from the perspective of creative freedom and creative reframing of everything.
I think that's so beautiful. And I'm just going to quickly jump in when you're like you go through this you go through a healing journey, and it doesn't stop, and it's easy, like Zach said, that you get stuck in a healing loop as well. And in order to move beyond that, you really have to take a deeper look at where you are in your life, where you are going, and also really look at the shadows, the fears that are being shown to you are not there to hold you back. They're there to teach you. And this is not new knowledge, but I think people really need to hear this, is that this shadow work, this darkness, the ego, the fears, this has all been trained and patterned into your mind since childhood. No matter if it's done consciously or subconsciously, ancestrally, generationally, these components of people's personalities are there to teach, not to limit. And if it's limiting you, like Zach does very eloquently also describes, why is it limiting you? Why are you in that box? Let's break that box, right, Zach? You like that,
Yeah,
right?
that's it.
Yeah.
Get out of it. Let's go. Let's go.
Let's go. And so break that box. How are you going to do that? And that's how we step in. And
Yeah.
it's not always about the end result, like we're going to heal you and you're going to go straight zoom. It's going to go like this. It's going to go like that, because we are humans and emotions are one and the same. We have to feel. You can't shut down, right?
Yeah.
You have to feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could just add to that. You said something about the healing and some misunderstanding of the messages we're getting.
Yeah.
I remember coaching someone and she was talking about having this wound and needing to heal. And I said, what if it's already healed and it's just a scar you're picking at?
Wow.
Yeah.
And that opened things up. And I think we have a lot of misunderstandings in our thinking. When you look at us on the evolutionary scale, we're babies. Are a lot of what because we look to the past and our memories to figure out what we want to create for going forward, we're limited to that. And that thinking was there's nothing wrong with it, except it may not be true anymore, or it may be bankrupt in a way of, not sufficient for this conversation. The
Right.
feeling you may get from that thought, because it reminds you of something, the way the neural pathways work, well, it'll if it doesn't know what it is, it'll find the pattern, and it'll shove it down that pathway, and you're going to experience it anyway, even if it's not real. And so there's this willingness to just breathe through it and trust yourself and trust the whole process. If we are in this sacred world, in this world of magical things, when I look around, everything is becoming a miracle. The more I embrace this, life is really a miracle beyond the cliche. So anyway, I'll stop now, but I think we're just beginning.
Let me break some boxes a bit. Because I love where this is going. I think the thread of like what we're talking about is coach is not a useful word, right? It's become something that isn't helpful. And I almost think to that point that healing has also been a word that's outdated, and maybe it's done. Because the work really isn't to heal, right? Like, you don't heal a trauma, you resolve a trauma. And when you resolve a trauma, the ego has a shift, and then you integrate that new ego into your being. And that's where we get this sense of healing and experience of living life in a new way and feeling lighter and more open and more expansive. And Mickey, you said it so beautifully, is all of this is about us reintegrating our ego from the patterns and from the programs and from everything that we've gone through into a new way of living. And the challenges, right? I love that you said, like, maybe you don't need healing. Maybe there's a scar there. But what the ego does is it attaches to whatever it can control, right? And whatever it can control, it does that because it wants to not be in this open flow state, which I know that Pauline can talk to, of just existing in life. The ego wants control, and it wants us on these patterns because then it can be a fortune teller of what's happening. And then it gives us this sense of false safety of we're actually in control of our lives. And the freedom comes through when we're able to sit in those dark emotions and those dark places. And I think you said it perfectly, Roshni, of it's still too difficult for us as a species to do that. We're just taught to repel everything that's uncomfortable. And I had a moment the other night that was just like this beautiful moment for me. Like, as long as I've been doing this, but even on my own journey, I just rose in the middle of the night. My shadow brought up, you know how it does. It brings up that big, scary thing. And I just was like, hi, thank you for waking me up. Like, I appreciate your presence being here right now. And, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have been like, nope. Like, I'm going to go back to bed. Let me go get like the Tylenol PM. Let me go get whatever it is that's going to make me like push this away, because I don't want to feel this. And this just feels uncomfortable. And instead it was, hi, welcome. Like, I'm so glad you're here. I wish you would have picked a different time. But I'm excited that you're here right now. What is it you're feeling? What is it you need? Let's go into this. And instead of it being something that elongates hours, days, weeks, months, years, it's minutes. It's 10 to 15 to 20 minutes of just sitting in this place, listening to what the shadow is trying to tell you and what the ego needs, providing that love and acceptance of that thing. And if you're energetic, like everyone is energetic, but if you're energetic, like energetically sensitive, you're going to feel that release, and you're going to feel that oddness of everyone does, like all my clients do. So I guess it's all of us, that kind of dissipation of that negative energy, and it just kind of releasing into the ether. And I guess maybe we call that healing, but really it's integration. And it's such an interesting journey that we're all on.
Yeah, the point of shadow work itself is to integrate the new information and hug those dragons instead of continuously slaying them. It's acceptance within of all the parts, all the good parts, all the bad parts, and self-compassion and self-acceptance through that process. Because that is what actually the alchemy is that everybody talks about, alchemizing your own aspects through acceptance of them and then transforming them into something else so that you can move on. Because I think the shadow work terminology has been convoluted, just like the healing has been, just like the coaching, just like the guidance. But essentially, all it is acceptance of all of you, the way you are, regardless of what happened in the past, regardless of what you think you are, just accepting, integrating, and then finding something good in it to move on to the next stage of evolutionary journey.
Mm.
I'm hugging the
So-
dragon, by the way.
I have one too. I just got one.
Gotta hug a dragon.
It's so cool. But you know what I'm hearing in all this too is that the language is becoming outdated. And as we evolve, as we push outwards or as we expand and grow, these terms will either grow with it or they'll become outdated.
Yeah.
And I noticed, I was listening to all of this, like I wear coach like an identity. Like I'm proud to say it, but it's not, and it's given me a whole new thing to start thinking about because I'm so proud of being a coach because of how it's altered my life and affected my life and how I've helped impact others. But it's like, we see it in society now. There's a whole new groups of people that are being recognized for existing and being a valid way of seeing humanity.
Right.
That wasn't there before. So all these things we're talking about are somewhat transient, terms that will, they'll evolve, but the how we see them or experience them. So it's kind of interesting, whether it's a wound or a scar or it's healed or it's not healed or all that stuff.
That's the problem with evolution and growth, right? I mean, we just did an episode of Pauline's podcast where I talked about that. Like the tools that got me here are not the tools that keep me here. It's like meditation, a certain type of meditation or a certain thing really helped me get in a spacious space at one point. And then I get to a new level of consciousness in my evolution, and that doesn't work anymore.
Mhm.
And now I'm like trying to meditate and I'm full of anxiety. Like, what is the deal? And it's the same with the terms, right? That's the problem with evolution and the tension of ego that we have in it is we get to these places of growth and comfort, and we have this. I don't know if it's just me. I think it's all human beings, but I'm here. I'm arrived. I'm full of peace. I have inner peace. I have all these things that I've always wanted. I understand what being in the flow is. I understand I hate the word manifesting, but because it just carries so many weird connotations with it.
Right.
But I understand how to co-create my life and how to bring things and allow things to be. And then as you grow, it's like goes away. And it's like, okay, how am I back here? And then we freak out. And really that's just part of the journey, right? You didn't lose it. You didn't lose anything. Now you're evolving more, you having those growth pains, and you're needing to step up, whether it's the language, whether it's the understanding, whether it's the tools.
I think a lot of people have been focused on those terminologies such as flow, manifesting, law of abundance, all of those things. And those are great things. But when you're solely focused just on that, just like in the context of flow state, you can't get to the flow without struggle. You can't get to the mastery of something without repetitive, intentional performance. And deliberate practice is opposite of flow. Deliberate practice is hard and it's grinding and it's struggle. And that is what gets you to the flow state. It's always an opposition. But I think a lot of people forget about the value of hard work and the requirement persistence, and they just want to be in flow all the time. Peace, all the time, on top of the mountain, manifesting abundance without any shadows, without darkness, without any dragons. Just get me to the other side where it's always beautiful and sunshine. And that I think is the downfall of current place where we are. Well, we are not recognizing the struggle comes as part of the process, and it always is required. You go up and down, you get from good to bad, but the struggle is the prerequisite for flow.
Yeah, I think it
love
relates,
that.
Nikki, to what you said earlier, right? It's like we all have challenges, but suffering is very optional.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I'm listening to all this, and again, consider all these things, these beliefs, these experiences are past based now. And so we're speaking from there, from that thinking, from that experience. Nothing wrong with it. It's been great. It's been not great. So whatever it is, labeling everything. Now, what if you just get, you said flow is hard to get into. I would disagree. Now, I'm not saying it's always easy, but if you just close your eyes and breathe, you can get into you can be in a meditative state, which is, if not flow, certainly the next best thing, or an inch away. But we've got it that it's this way. Like I was told about meditation 25 years ago, and I did it for about a week or two, couldn't do it well or judged it, and then stopped doing it. When I could have just closed my eyes and just practice breathing and not worry about thoughts or any of that. So like a lot of it's right there for us. It's right here. But we've got this whole thing. Struggle is just a response to something going a certain way.
Yeah.
And believe me, I'm a great struggler, man. I got a PhD in it.
Yeah.
I wrestle phantoms. It's just conversation. It's just thought. It's just, so it's like, I assert in many ways, and believe me, I haven't mastered this, but we live in a state of that flow. And we just get distracted because we spend so much time up here thinking.
Yeah.
Now, that's not true, but it's true for, it's true for me. It's maybe little t true. I don't know. We'll have to, it has to be proved out over time, but I really believe we live in it. We're in it. And if the four of us closed our eyes and got quiet right now, we'd be experiencing it without all the struggle, without all the having to fix something. I related to what you were saying before, Zach, about waking up in the middle of the night and the dragon was there. I woke up one night and I was trembling from head to toe. I mean, in terror, forget fear. It was, and I don't even know what it was about until because it wasn't a thought then. I remember we were planning this trip to go to Europe for 3 weeks, and I had to figure out a way to, how am I going to take care of my clients? It was the big challenge, like this big dragon I created. And that literally was what was going. And I had to ride this thing out, whatever time. I don't know, it took 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but I had to ride it out. I didn't freak out. And we went on the trip. And when I got to Europe and we were in Italy, I checked the internet, it worked. And you know what? And I had a client call. And it was as simple as that. But what I had made up back here with the thinking I had at the time, which was as real as this table I'm hitting, so it's like we are creators. And we're creators, but sometimes unconscious, or from back there. So I don't know. There's something in there to play with. I invite you guys to kind of play with it. But
I'd love to address the struggle because I think it resonates with everybody. And I think there's. Let me just say it like this. I think the struggle comes from the ego, right? And this is where the breaking boxes things and the integrating the ego part is so important. Because if our programming is that things need to be hard for us to reach them, then our ego will create that so that it's hard for us to reach them. And I think the ultimate truth, and that we would all agree with, is we are all naturally in flow. We are meant to be in flow. This is who the authentic self is. And the challenges come up with the blocks that the ego creates because the ego wants to stay in control. So then we create steps, right? And then, well, if I do these steps, so then we're trying to do flow state work from an egocentric place, and that creates this really difficult feeling of difficulty that makes it difficult. And then we get into the term, surrender or letting go. Well, what does that mean? Well, okay, well, what are the steps to letting go? It's literally just fucking letting go.
Yeah.
Right?
Very, very, all the answers that we need, because everything is already there, are very, very simple. The challenge is the ego.
Can I push back on that?
Please.
So where in the room is ego? I don't see, how would I know ego when it's there? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you can know when it's there. And maybe you've integrated your ego to a point, Mickey, that you don't notice it.
No. Bear with me. I'm not, I got whatever that thing is, but I'm kind of questioning the concept because we're giving that something.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? It's like,
sure.
if we just have to, so it's I don't know what it is per se. I mean, I have a lot of pictures of it. I've heard it used. I was going to ask actually again, when we're talking about ego, what are we actually talking about? Maybe we should define it for this conversation.
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
I think that would be helpful because I know I've heard a lot of different. So would you mind telling me how, when you speak it, what it means?
Yeah, so I mean, there's two ways that Carl Jung described ego, and I'll go from those. The first is that, and he called it parts, right? Or we call it parts, or parts work is one of the terms we use in psychology. And so Carl Jung discussed that there's two forms of ego. Ego is just, in German, ego just means self. It's who you are. It's who your identity is, and it's just a natural part of your psyche. There are two parts of you. There is the authentic self, right? Which is what you're talking about, Mickey, that part of you. Everything's already here. Like, what are we struggling with, guys?
Yeah.
Like authentic self is this free self. If there was no programming, if there was no trauma, if there were no things that happened in our life that came through, that this is just the existence we would talk about. That's what Pauline's talking about too. If we could live in that state 100% of the time, that'd be great. No human can, right? Unless you reach like this massive level of enlightenment of, let's call it Jesus, Rumi, whoever you want to talk about, that's reached this place. And I think it's a sort of goal. That's the authentic self part of your ego. And then there's the false self of your ego. And your ego's job, its native position, is to protect you. So if we kill the ego, which is the old teachings, right, is get rid of the ego. If you kill the ego, you actually create a lot of problems. One, you'll just walk into the street without looking both ways and get hit by a bus. We need ego. And if we kill the ego too much, we actually become like, we start taking on feelings of worthlessness and hopelessness and all of these other things. So it's this delicate balance of integrating these two selves, of realizing when is the ego overprotecting us, like an overbearing mother, when we should be stepping out into this fear, and then how do we live and integrate that ego more into the authentic self. And then there's the second way, right, which is the three-part way, which is we've got our authentic self, and then we've got our ego, and then we've got shadow. And these three parts that each have different roles. Ego's job is to protect. The authentic self job is to be the parent in the room. If you talk about psychology, inner parenting, the authentic self is the one that's in control. And then the shadow's job is to bring up the things that we're hiding, and to be the part of us that holds space for the ego when the ego cries out in need. The shadow is what brings that to us in a way that is often frightening, but it creates space so that we can exist and be in that place, our authentic self, with ego and shadow, and live in this relationship. Does that make sense? Or too complicated?
It does. And you I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'd like to jump in on the how do I know that ego's in the room and where I'm working from? Let's talk about parenting. Kids press your buttons. They're there to heal. They're like the greatest co-creators, the greatest healers. And my son is definitely one of those. All kids are. I know specifically my ego is in hyper mode when he is challenging me. And I think in my mind that I am doing the best for him, and I'm not trusting the flow between us. He and I have a very, very clear line of communication. I can tell him anything. He tells me anything. There we have this beautiful flowing state. And I've kept that since he was very young, since he started talking. How do I know when ego type jumps in? It goes into hyper mode when he's challenging me, when he wants to do something that is a little outside of the box. Like he wanted to, what did he want to do the other day? He said, well, let's go and do some bungee jumping. And I said, okay, look, yes, we can do bungee jumping. But I was totally hesitant. And my fear as a mother came in and kind of stopped me from actually pursuing the idea, and he forgot about it. I was like, thank God, but we'll probably bungee jump anyway. And I feel it. And how do I feel it? I feel like my body is actually physiologically just stopping me from flowing. So I actually go through those emotions of ego, but then I also go through the beautiful parts of flow, When you feel flow state, what does that feel like? Essentially, it's freedom, it's authenticity, it's light, it's curiosity. All of these things I know because I felt it. Do you need both? Yes, you do, especially if you want to survive as a parent, because it is a challenging job. So, in terms of that lens, that's how I know, especially because that child is watching everything you're doing, all the choices you're making, and they're like pushing your buttons, and he will, because that's what their job is. But then, are you going to integrate that, or are you going to fear that? And
I
that's
love
how
it.
it helps me to be a better parent.
I love that you brought that up because what you just took is that's how the ego shows up somatically, right, in the body.
Yep.
You described that so well. Your nervous system, you start to feel that tension. You start to feel that. That's when we know it's there.
100%. It's there.
Right?
Yeah.
They're like, I'm not a threat. This child is not an actual threat to me. Why am I tensing up right now? Your ego's there, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and another way to look at the ego is from the perspective or the metaphor of the movie. If you are the star of your own movie and you're acting out the script on set, and there are certain scenes, and you have other players or other actors with you, the ego is the director. It is that outside influence that is directing the entire movie. And I know for myself, the ego comes through overthinking. And that is the direct relationship to the flow state being stopped by thinking. And actually, it connects the thought for me to the metaphor of the good old story of Adam and Eve, and how they were in this conceptual idea of a Garden of Eden, and everything was flowing and everything was great. But then they got the self-knowledge, the knowledge of the self, the awareness of the self. And when you have that awareness of the self, you all of a sudden not in flow because you're overthinking. That is what I believe is the description and the metaphor from the original old ancient texts of how people block themselves from flow state. Because in flow, you are selfless. Your sense of self disappears, and science actually mapped out how it shows up in the brain. And the time disappears as well. That is when we are all connected, we connected with others. But when you're thinking about yourself, who you are, how you're performing, what you look like, that is when the ego shows up and it puts the brakes onto that state of oneness, connectedness, and flow. So that is another way to look at it.
Wow. So timeless, selfless energy flow. And why are we talking about this other stuff? Why do we go there? I mean, that's like unbelievable. I mean, that's it. I don't know. I guess it just speaks to, again, how we're drawn to the struggle or the negative or the concern rather than we're in heaven. No, let me go check out hell. You know, it's like we got this great thing. We're it's sort of a. I'm struck with like we have put the attention on that thing that scares us rather than dive into the pool and enjoy the beauty of the moment. So,
and
I'm
my
glad that you
perspective is
said
that
that.
those two things have to coexist together. Conceptual idea of heaven and hell, they have to be, it's like black and white. We are in the duality, day and night, winter and summer, life and death. They're kind of all here for the purpose of contrasting each other.
Well, I think too, here's the evolution part again, right? The evolution of consciousness is that we exist in all of those things equally and they don't affect us either way. Like that's flow. Like
Exactly.
if we're going to use these archetypes of the story of heaven and hell, like flow state literally is living in your authentic self, is being comfortable in both. Oftentimes many of us in how we live out our human existence, some of us are very great at new beginnings. That's me. I love new beginnings. Like but have a really hard time with death and the ending of things. That's also me. So as I've grown and that understanding of my consciousness has grown, I've actually become more comfortable in both places. Whereas like whether it's a new beginning or if it's an ending of something else, as my consciousness has grown and the integration of my ego has grown and all these things that we're talking about in language and and semantics that we're bringing up, what Mickey is talking about, like, let's just live in heaven. Well, a fucking men.
Right?
Right? Like, let's do that. And that, I think all of this, I love the idea of the pendulum and the universe being balanced, because as we naturally do as human beings, we look at it as like something's on a diet. I need to lose a bunch of weight. So they go hard on this diet. They lose all the weight, and then they stop the diet, and then they go hard in gaining all that weight back. And really what flow is right in the middle. Like, what is the healthy, what is the, not even, I don't even like using the terms healthy or unhealthy. Like, who are you? How does your body work for you? How do you integrate that the best for yourself? And that's how you begin to live in flow state of that place of heaven and hell. What? It doesn't matter. Like, cool.
Yes. And it's to stretch out a little bit more is the idea of attachment. Some people are more attached to the dark. Some people are more attached to the light.
Cool.
And is there anything wrong with that? Absolutely not. The main thing is finding that zone of authenticity, of truth, of love, of that ability, and that having the courage to choose that for yourself and choose heaven. If we're going to put a word on it, choose it for yourself. It may look differently for every other person. It may look the same as your neighbors. It doesn't matter. Once the vibration of that flow state is there, you will understand it, your body will learn it, and you will return to it, especially when you're looking at hell on any given day or any point in your life. So let go of that idea of attachment. This is not a new concept. Again, like the idea of letting go, and like, when people, like kids are learning to walk and they're holding the sofa and they're kind of going sidestepping, eventually they let go. Why is that? Because they have learned to support themselves on their own. And so I love this idea of just being free and being not attached to anything, but to learn yourself through different ways, so that when you come to that point of absolute comfort of your flow, your body knows it, will learn it, and will return to it.
It's home.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And authentic self-expression, I can't stress it enough. I just had a thought recently that the strength of your focus correlates in direct proportion to your authentic self-expression. If you want to be more focused, you want to be the most yourself that you can possibly be, which will then allow you to follow your purpose, follow your goals in your own unique way, which will give you that laser focus that everybody talks about. It's very hard to be focused on something that is not aligned with your values and who you truly are.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Drop.
No, I was pondering about it, because it is true. That is part of it. And I love Mickey's approach with it, because those values and who you are already there. We're not in a state of needing to find ourselves. We're already here. We're in
You
a,
just
we're
need
in
to
a,
remove
we're in a
the
state of
blocks
like,
to those authentic values.
yeah, we're in a state of like growing a more awareness of who we are.
Amen, brother. That's how it is for me, at least the way I can see it the most. We
Yeah.
build the awareness muscle, not the thinking muscle, not the knowing muscle, but the awareness, like looking beyond, like the senses. That's why we feel it in our body.
Yeah.
Yes. And I always say that, life is not complex. The mind is.
Yeah.
It's, the mind is. People are not complex. The mind is. The thoughts, the patterning, the conditioning, the traumas you're holding on. It's the mind that's trying to sort it out. And like we said, and everyone has already alluded to this very beautifully and eloquently, is that when you are looking from the perspective of your experiences through a lens of, for example, trauma, negativity, that's a part of the journey as well. But at the same time, when you're moving along in this journey, you have to be able to find that self-acceptance and that authentic place, because your body already knows what it needs. Your soul knows and has learned what it needs to do. It knows its lessons. You have to go through it. Yes, absolutely. But it gets a little bit convoluted because the mind is like, but if you just let go,
This
clear out the cobwebs and listen here, and
Yeah.
everybody can do it. Everybody can do it. And learning and leaning into instinctual gut instinct things. And this is why I left my first career, was that pure instinct. I'm like, it's my time. Boom. Took me 5 years,
Sure.
but boom, right into the heart. I'm like, let's go. Started my business the next day.
Took me 20 years, but that's okay. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But
Time's just a concept anyway.
That's it. Yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter.
It's just a concept. Who cares?
Yeah. I mean, I love, it's so true, because that's what I was explaining, like even in the very beginning when I was talking about kind of who I am and what I do. Our Western way of thinking does a really good job of dealing with the mind and the logic.
Yes.
But that fails us. And if we go all heart, that also fails us. So the goal, or not the goal, but the integration really is, the mind needs the heart and is actually deeply in love with the heart and needs that romantic relationship with the heart
Yes. Goosebumps.
in order
Yes.
to function the way that we are meant to be and who we already are. So I think all of this things that we're talking about is literally helping the mind and the heart, letting that romantic relationship begin to happen so that they can function together and live together in the harmonious way that they're supposed to be.
Yeah, within the singular person, there could be that cohesion of mind and the heart, because we all have masculine and feminine energy within us, which is the archetypal energy of Eve and Adam, whatever, masculine and feminine. All of it is already within, and there's just needs to be a way to connect those two. So every individual person can access that within themselves without anyone else providing it for them. And I think that is the key that allows to sidestep out of that overthinking mind and actually get into the body, that connectivity within, an integration of all the parts, so that first that heaven on earth kind of starts to exist within the person themselves through the authentic expression, which will then result in greater focus and then best connections with other people. So it's all starts within.
Yeah.
A little show and tell here. I don't know if you can you see this? So this is exactly what we're talking about, right? Negativity, human, cosmos. You are dancing consistently back and forth and dancing with the two elements. There's the cosmic part of yourself, the spiritual part, metaphysical, your higher self. But then you also are here on earth. You don't have to, you have to be here. You don't have to be of here, right? There's a difference. And you're stepping on, like I think it's a boy, and I'm not much of a deity type of thing, but I keep this in my office because it reminds me that it is a dance between the two elements, the mind and the heart, the cosmos and the earth. You're constantly interchanging and playing with all of these elements. This comes from the Hindu religion, but I don't subscribe to it. And we're not going to get into religion, but it just reminds me of the dance that we are doing, and we're completely capable of dancing and balancing it. We can. Yeah.
It is all archetypal, and maybe we'll have another episode on archetypes, because this is all just very fundamental things that are expressed through different images in our reality, but it's very archetypal and it's within.
Yeah, we all need a narrative, right? And part of what happens as our consciousness grows is our creativity just begins to go.
Yes.
Just like this childlike, our inner child begins to take over. And it's such a beautiful thing. And we need that story. And I often reference Harry Potter, with my clients, because there's this part in Harry Potter where Harry goes to Dumbledore, the head wizard, and he says, Dumbledore, is this real? And Dumbledore's like, was what real? This magic. Is this real? And Dumbledore just looks at him and goes, it's real to you, Harry. Which is all that matters. you know, all the religions, all the signs, all the symbolism, these are story and narrative. That's why I call my company Breakbox Coaching and Creative, right? Like
Mhm.
that creative part that comes out of us that forms those narratives that integrate these parts of us is just such a beautiful dance. Such a wonderful thing.
Absolutely. Well, we can talk about these subjects for hours. I thought we should have just an hour to begin with and see if it resonates with people or what we arrive. But I think there's another iteration of this coming because there's so much more to discuss. And I think to kind of finish this up, what would be your message to everybody? Because people are looking into the outside world right now, and there's so much unpredictability right now. We don't know where we're going. Year 2024 is shaping up to be a who knows what kind of year. People are anxious. People don't know what to do with themselves. They think about all this shadow work that they don't know how to do. It's overwhelming. The data that we're being fed is overwhelming. Everything comes down to us. And then there's healing needed, and there's ego to transcend, all of that. How can they simplify it for themselves?
Sit still. Sit still, right? Sit still and just listen. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I get my two words are, well, I guess it's four, but two different phrases. One is go inward, which is sitting still as part of that.
There
Like
you go.
Mickey says, all the answers are here. We go inward and sit still.
Mhm.
And then a new one that I've really adopted is it's okay. Like this aspect of all these things, right, that get us going. It's just to soothe ourselves and go, it's okay. Our ego, it'll be okay. When we flare up in that shadow, it's okay. Like it's just letting it be okay.
Yes.
Those are my two things. Right now, they'll probably evolve next week.
Yeah, it's more of what they said. It's like, take the attention from here and put it here. You'll find what you're looking for because it's already there.
Mhm.
Well, I
Beautiful.
like your snow globe too. If you can show it and explain how the mind creates all that
Right.
stuff.
So this is my new prop. This is not my original thought, but somebody shared it, a guy named Michael Neal, and he correlated this to when we think too much. We're in a problem, we work on something, and we think if we just think more, we'll figure it out. But really, the key is to just let it all settle. Get quiet. And again, breathe, relax, and look at all of a sudden it's clear. And now you can make a choice based on what you see in this particular perspective.
Beautiful. And for me, the newest thing has been to think that it's easy because I also have a PhD in struggle. So I started recovering left brainer here. But I started thinking that it's easy. It's easy to do shadow work. It's easy to deal with complex subjects. It's easy to resolve and integrate things within. It's all easy and it's all flowy. And that's kind of been really working for me. It's easy to get to authentic self.
It is. Can I add like one little thing about that? Go beyond the words. Let's not label it. Let's just feel it. Let's just experience it.
Right. Right.
That shit's hard. That's why you get it. Kidding, but true.
I love that.
Patience, grasshopper, patience.
Yes, indeed.
I'm just speaking what somebody's gonna say after they hear that. They're like, whatever, man.
Absolutely.
We're just messengers here. We're ourselves on this journey. We
For
are
sure.
attempting and doing our best to guide others, but we are ourselves going through exactly the same stuff. So it's a matter of continuing and shining the light that it is possible. All things are possible and they are easy, and letting go and just continue on.
Thank you.
Amazing.
This was great.
Thank you,
guys.
everyone. So
Really
good.
Yes.
Soul food right here. Soul food right here.
Amen,
So
sister.
good.
Amen.
Absolutely. That was the group flow that we have experienced. And out of that usually come up new ideas. We are able to collaborate. This is what collaboration looks like. This is what co-creation is really like, being on the same page in the same kind of aspects and discussing and seeing what new things show up and how they contributed to the world around us. So for all the listeners, thank you so much. For everybody who's watching it, and let us know in the comments what resonated the most. What would you like to hear more about? Because this has been very fun for us, but it would be great if we could actually focus on some things that are relevant to the listeners. Otherwise, we'll continue spinning within that subject that we love so much, and it's like almost like sitting in a bubble and reinforcing the ideas, but it could get stagnant. So what are the things that listeners out there want to know about, learn about, be helped with? So something like that. This is what I'm personally interested in, and I'm sure others also maybe.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll close it on here, and wish everybody a great day and great week, and we'll see you next time.